Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Pipeline, where we discuss the hot news of the week. And we've got a lot of games to talk about this week, I feel like. But before we get to them, we're joined by Don, Tris, and Tom to talk about all that news and perhaps even more. How are you all doing today?
Good, yeah,
doing well.
Are you still tired, Don, from all the all the side order you played?
Yeah, yesterday, for context, outside of us, I just was playing side order yesterday all day.
How many times have you gone through that entire mode now?
4 times. But I'm getting now to the point. I came to the point now where I have to tackle the more difficult weapons. For example, the sniper weapon and the Gatling gun. So those will be fun runs for sure, because I'm very good at those weapons, even in ranked. Am I? Not really.
It sounds like the game is almost too easy for you. You have to make it harder on yourself at this point.
I mean, I started with the weapons that I know the most, right? That makes the most sense.
Right.
Yeah. And once you go for the entirety with a run through a weapon, you basically unlock it also the equivalent for you in turf wars and ranked battles.
Yeah, you got like the weapon replica, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
But including their entire set. So I also have a reason to go through them ultimately, because I kind of want to unlock them for the main game. But I'm now at the point where I have to tackle the more difficult weapons, and I have the feeling it will be fun.
I hope so. It sounds like it's been fun for you so far, and hopefully that continues. We'll circle back to side order, I'm sure, soon enough. For now, though, I want to hop into what was basically the big news of the week, I'd say, which was the Nintendo Direct. We had a partner Direct. It was announced, I think, on Monday, happened Wednesday, and then they also announced like a Pokemon Presents right around the same time too. A lot going on, so we'll talk about that a little bit more soon too. But Nintendo Direct, it had of course, with it being a partner showcase, not a lot in the way of first party titles, but we did get some big announcements regardless, including an Epic Mickey remake, Epic Mickey Rebrushed, I believe, and that was a huge surprise for me. But we also got a new Monkey Ball game, completed like 16-player multiplayer. We confirmation of more rare games coming to NSO, or rather, they came to NSO like immediately. We have an Endless Ocean sequel. We got Penny's Big Breakaway Shadow dropping that day, which I did a stream of. Another Crab's Treasure release date and trailer, and there was some good stuff in there if you like third-party games, which I think we all do, hopefully. At least some of them. So yeah, I guess we haven't done a full discussion on this yet. Tris, you were there covering it. What did you think of it from everything you saw?
I gotta say, I'm kind of glad I went in with the low expectations. Like, everyone talking about this went on about how, like, oh yeah, there's a partner showcase happening, but I'm not really excited for it. There's something really good there. Well, they were wrong. There were some actually like good things there, and it like genuinely surprised me. I actually think this was a really solid partner showcase overall. Like, the amount of things that were here, the way it was presented, like actually a really solid showcase, which shouldn't be too surprising given the last partner showcase like a couple years ago was also a pretty good one. So it seems like they've nailed the formula and what to include in it. Because it really did just feel like what you would see in a normal Direct minus the first-party titles. And I think that's good.
I mean, technically, there was a first-party game in this partner showcase, which was Endless Ocean Luminous. Which,
that's true.
I mean, it's made by Akira. What's their name of the developer?
Akira.
Arika. But they usually did like the 99 games, and obviously they also did Dr. Mario on the recent consoles and stuff. But they haven't gone back to that well for a while, pun completely intended. But I'm very happy with that in particularly, especially see it to come back. But that was a weird one because technically still Nintendo owns it, so I'm not sure why it was in a partner showcase.
Yeah, is Nintendo publishing it for sure?
Yes.
Then? Okay.
Yes, they are.
Yeah, that is a bit of a strange one, but maybe Nintendo thought it would fit better in here. Who knows? Nintendo works in mysterious ways. It's impossible to fully understand them.
We know they always like to squeeze one of their own games into one of these. Like, hey guys, one more thing. This doesn't count as a partner now. It's okay.
We
We're
said no
kind of-
Nintendo games, but here's Mario and Rabbids Sparks of Hope, so.
Yeah, because that's completely done by Ubisoft. No, I think honestly in this case it's because Endless Ocean has a release date of May 2nd, and this is kind of the only time to give it a spotlight like that outside of like random social media trailers as we get closer to its release.
This one here on screen, a ranger, a role puzzling adventure was the one the biggest surprise for me. It's the artist who did Brave, and Nick Suttner is doing writing. He worked on Cardo, but also a bit on Celeste, like a few helped out a little bit. This was the one we didn't know about that I liked the most.
Wow. So you're saying that was a bigger surprise than Epic Mickey Rebrushed, Tom?
For me, I'm saying people who liked Epic Mickey in the past and played it and played through it, I can understand that being their big surprise.
I think my biggest two surprises were really Super Monkey Ball Banana Rumble and the release date for Another Crab's Treasure.
Yes, I'm very excited for Another Crab's Treasure. That's releasing on my birthday. I actually can't wait.
Yeah, I really enjoy what I played of it in multiple demos of Another Crab's Treasure. I really like how it feels as a Souls-like, especially with the shell mechanic of that game. And seeing now characters interact in voiced cutscenes was a very different approach, but I liked it.
Yeah, that was a new surprise. I love the little shark claw thing that we've seen in the past. For me, playing that demo, I have to wrap my head around not trying to dodge roll everything and trying to block more. That was a big catch.
100%. Yeah, 100%.
Souls-like with no dodge rolling. Is it really a Souls-like?
It does have dodge rolling, but block is better. So.
Gotcha.
As a Monkey Ball is now on screen, like Super Monkey Ball, we haven't had a new game for quite a while. The last two have been remakes.
Yeah, it's been like over 10 years, so this is quite exciting, actually.
And I think this is the most amusement like the AM Sega developer used to make them. This was most Sega AM has ever felt for quite a while. Obviously, the new wrinkle we see now is the spin dash, which might make some amazing skips happen. But
like a dodge roll?
But it's also like the multiplayer modes like make me very interested, but more so the fact over 200 new stages. So
it's going to be a fun one.
Yeah, that was a nice surprise. Although I hope that they end up making it. Like I feel like I've seen so much mediocre Monkey Ball. Like I need this to be good. Like I need a good Monkey Ball. I won't believe it till I play it. That's where I'm at with Monkey Ball. So I'm hoping this is the game that brings it back. It's looking promising. The online multiplayer, 16 players, that seems like that'll be a lot of fun.
Yeah.
I hope, but the core thing for me is like, how does it feel? Like, is it going to be, does it control well?
Yeah.
Does it feel good? And that's something I think a lot of them have kind of messed up ever since the original series.
I do think since the last two remakes, they got a better handle of how this all should control. Like, I think the one that wasn't very great was the remake. I think the remake was very mediocre. I think the last one, with like remade stages of the original games, fared a whole lot better.
Right.
It's also worth noting too how this Monkey Ball game is a Switch console exclusive. There might be a PC version, but it's being marketed as a Switch exclusive, which is exciting.
Yeah, I mean, you figure probably a lot of Sega's demographic for that game already. Well, I mean, I would say most people own the Switch anyway, but especially for Sega and Monkey Ball, like that's a series that goes back to the GameCube. That started on the game. It started on the GameCube besides arcades, and so I imagine there's like a large function or large portion of Nintendo fans or Monkey Ball fans on Nintendo platforms. So.
Now watch them ruin it with a VR and Apple Arcade version. Whoops.
Like
I've been negotiating.
Even Samba coming to Oculus Quest, which made sense. Like I wouldn't want Monkey Ball in VR.
Could you imagine? Just sitting at the top of like a Monkey Ball stage beneath you.
Yeah.
Oh God.
So I think
so disorienting.
It would be. I think for me, the two biggest surprises were Endless Ocean. I genuinely did not expect to see this game come back ever. And here it is.
And it looks good.
That looks great.
Yeah, I saw your comparison, Tris, and it looks like it's been a big upgrade since the 15 years between the last one or so.
Yeah.
So that's exciting. I didn't honestly, never expected to see this again. And then the other one, for me was Epic Mickey, and that's what you get 2 Wii series coming back. Let's see if I can find it here. I don't know where in the direct it was, but wherever it is. But yeah, Epic Mickey, I think coming back, huge surprise. And it was like trending all day. Although I did see a couple of takes on Twitter being like, Epic Mickey's not a big deal. Like no one's talking about it. I'm like, what are you talking about? I'm seeing like everyone talking about it. Like it's
the highlight of this
direct. It was the game with the direct. So I don't understand how someone couldn't see that. But yeah, that was a surprise. And the remake looks really good. And it's apparently being based who's the developer? I forget the of the remake. Do we know?
Okay. We just know it's being published by THQ Nordic, which their ports have been hit or miss.
Well, so
I don't remember
I believe
the name of the but I think the Steam page for it says it's the same team that did the recent SpongeBob games, like the
that's right.
Okay.
Rehydrated, right?
Yes.
And apparently they often have like incorporated like lost or cut content into their remakes, and apparently Epic Mickey is like a treasure trove of like content that was cut, at the last minute to make sure they could get it out the door.
Ooh.
So I'm hoping that they restore a lot of that and really like take this time to make Epic Mickey like make this the definitive version, because the first game, to be fair, I never played a ton of it, but based on what I did play and what I'd heard, like it sounded like it had a really a good premise. A lot of people really enjoyed it for what it was, but it also had some like glaring omissions or some rough edges. So hopefully they can iron all that out with this remake.
I think it was mostly the camera. Like 50% of the complaints
Isn't always it's often
were the camera.
Era. Yeah.
The camera of the first game wasn't all that great, but ultimately I did enjoy playing through that game. It will be interesting to see how they adjust that, because especially with the gameplay mechanics of Paint Thinner, you have to do a lot of adjusting. So that will be the main breaking point of this remake, if they can fix the camera to a certain degree.
Right.
Well,
Yeah.
I'm sure they can brush that up.
When's the Splatoon crossover to promote the game?
Right. Actually, that's a good one. This whole thing reminds me too, between Disney's card game Lorcana, I think, and now Epic Mickey, both involving like ink to a huge degree. Like that's the entire mechanic in Lorcana, is that you're inking these characters into existence, and the Epic Mickey, he's running around with a paintbrush. It's funny that Disney's going all in on this, and they're not making anything using ink anymore. Like there's no 2D animation. It's sad. So I'm hoping this is building up to something. Maybe we'll get a proper 2D movie again in the future, but I don't know.
Pixar might be crazy enough to try. They love doing things for the sake of art. So
that's true.
And Team Sora mentions that from the chat that Epic Mickey is multi-platform as well. Yep. So even more people will be able to play it this time. Although I wonder how they're going to incorporate, because it had a pointer mechanic in the game, right? So it's pretty easy to replicate with Joy-Cons. I mean, not perfectly, but that might be a little trickier on the other consoles. I wonder how they're going to handle that. So
probably like 2 sticks, since there's actually 2 sticks to use now. So you could probably.
Oh, that's a good point. Yeah, they're not.
It's not a Wii remote anymore.
The pointer was so good on the Wii remote, Tris, though. The Joy-Cons can't quite cut it. It's like playing Mario Galaxy with a Joy-Con, not the same as the Wii remote.
Oh, God. White Rex animation just reminded me that Epic Mickey 2 was on the PlayStation Vita.
Wow.
It was?
Oh, yeah, and that port wasn't good. It wasn't a good port.
Was it a good game originally? I never played
Epic Mickey 2?
Yeah.
No.
No. So maybe that's the problem with the port. It was starting from a fundamentally poor place. So I wonder if this remake does well, do you think we could see a remake of the second game as well, or?
Well, that's the game that really needs.
Do you remake, or do you have a team there and create a new IP? I mean,
that's what I was thinking.
Not new IP, like create a new sequel.
That's what I was thinking. That's what they did with SpongeBob. So they could do that again with Epic Mickey, where you make this first game and now you make a new sequel. Not to erase Epic Mickey 2. Other, some new Epic Mickey game after this remake could be possible.
Right.
Yeah.
There were a couple other surprises in the direct, I think. For one, we found out what the 4 Microsoft games are coming to multi-platform, being a bunch of retro games. No, I'm kidding. That's actually a whole separate thing. But we did find out that 4 Rare games were, shadow dropped that same day on Nintendo Direct, including Battletoads for the Super NES, Snake Rattle and Roll, which I actually have. I've had the Game Boy version of, or sequel to, and I had no idea that they were related games, so that was kind of fun to find out. Killer Instinct of Super Nintendo and Pro Am from the NES. I played through a lot of this for a quick stream, and I'm still terrible at Killer Instinct. Pro-Am though, low key, that game's and Blast Corps for N64. How can I forget?
Yeah.
Pro-Am, low key, great. So sorry, I meant to say 5 games earlier. Yeah, Pro-Am surprisingly fun. I love that game based on how quickly I played it, and also Blast Corps is a classic. That game still holds up. Still really difficult in the later stages, but just a ton of fun all around. And of course, Tris, you made a quick video showcasing that. As some people discovered, there are like teases of more rare games to come in the. Do I have you here actually?
Yeah, if you go back to the shot of like all 5 of them on screen at once, where like where they're in the stars there, you can actually see like the constellations.
Yeah, the silhouette.
There's 2 constellations that are more wide, like the SNES or the N64 boxes, and then there's 2 that are more tall, like the NES boxes.
Because we still don't have Banjo-Tooie, we still don't have Diddy Kong Racing, so people are hoping that this is confirmation more is coming.
It should be. It should be,
right? So have you guys played any of these yet? Are you going to?
No,
Well,
I've not played them.
I played RC Pro-Am back on NES, and I was like, yeah, this is low-key one of the better games of this mix. Like, it's surprisingly good. I highly recommend trying it out.
Yeah, Flapjack from the chat says RC Pro-Am, it's very addictive. You can easily lose an hour to that and not realize it. Yeah, and first off, like, it looks good, handles great, has fun mechanics. It is a little tough, but you know what? That's not always a bad thing. And one thing I was surprised, I mean, I shouldn't be surprised. I was reminded of just how much rare like were masters of whatever hardware they were using. Like you had this, quasi 3D game and Snake Rattle Roll on the NES. Same thing for Pro-Am. It runs with a good frame rate. The AI is pretty it runs like the AI behaves realistically. I feel unlike even on some Super NES games where racers would follow like a straight line, like in Mario Kart. And the Killer Instinct Battletoads both looked amazing on the Super NES, so like it's a great reminder of how good Rare was, and I'm still sad that Nintendo sold them over 20 years ago.
Oh
like,
man,
for not much really, considering was it 400 million? I guess that was a lot at the time, but they had a 200 million stake, like half of it.
Right.
Compared to what game companies go for now, it's not a lot.
That's true.
Pro to Arts says, why is nobody wishing for Perfect Dark to be one of the rare N64 games teased there? So, I mean, I absolutely would love for it to be there along with Conquer. The barrier for that is those are both M-rated games, which would mean that they wouldn't be able to appear in the apps as is. Now, they could do what they did in Japan, which is release a separate version of the app. Or, I mean, there may be other ways around it too, but they could release a separate version of the app with the M-rated games only. But in Japan, they only did that for the T-rated games. And I don't know if Nintendo would go there for the M-rated games. We haven't seen that yet. In Japan, I guess T is extreme enough that it had to get its own separate app.
And that was for GoldenEye?
Or whatever their local rating system is. And that was for GoldenEye and Jet Force Gemini.
Gotcha.
Which, speaking of Jet Force Gemini, that got fixed. The widescreen works properly now, so that was not a surprise.
Yeah.
But the biggest surprise is Mother 3 coming to Switch, only in Japan, though. This is so sad. This is so sad.
Yeah, I mean, it's like a repeat of what happened back on the Wii U, where they did Earthbound Beginnings as like a big localization. Like, look, we localized the first Mother game, and then they put Mother 3 on only the Japanese Virtual Console. So it's the same kind of thing here again, where it's in Japan, it's a game they can easily just put on it, but they clearly don't want to do the localization effort.
I mean, I think, I don't know if it's that so much as the potential. Like, I worry that Nintendo, or I wonder if Nintendo's concerned about like any backlash due to some of the more what's where I'm looking for, like some of the more like some of the elements of the game that may not come across as well today as it did in Japan 20 years ago,
Yeah, that is a concern.
And I think this is proof that Nintendo is not going to go there. Like if they were, I think they would have had the released at the same time in both regions or in every region. But I think this is showing there are no plans right now to ever localize this game.
Yeah, it's almost like if it didn't come out in Japan, then we could still have hope. But now it did, and it's like, oh, all right.
Yeah,
it's It's wild too, because there's this weird surge with this happening of like attention on the Mother series. Like, yes, it is Earthbound's 30th anniversary this year, but getting Mother 3 on NSO in Japan, and like later that same day they announced like NSO icons for Earthbound Beginnings, which apparently in Japan they clarify it's 1 week for Earthbound Beginnings, week 2 is for Earthbound, and week 3 is for Mother 3. Don't know if we'll get that over here, but that would be really funny if they release Mother 3 icons internationally. But
it is interesting because a toys company, Hobichi, always has released like merchandise of Mother in their stores. I was there last year in November. Actually, in fact, hold up. Well, so my cover for my Hobichi diary is this.
Ooh, that's cool.
Yeah. It's like Mother 2.
Yeah, and they announced the Mother 3 plushies.
Yeah, but yeah, there wasn't like a lot of tags and that sort of stuff. So like Otoy had always like a soft spot to put merchandise of that game in his stores.
Right, of course.
So there's adding more merch to it, including the plushies, makes a lot of sense for him. It just like this seems like this weird interconnection. But then at the same time, if somebody asks, "Hey, so could this game come to the West potentially?" He's like, you have to ask Nintendo for that. Sorry.
Well, speaking of asking Nintendo, I guess Microsoft asked Nintendo to put some of their games on the Switch. So we found out, we finally found out after like the big ordeal with the podcast and the rumors before that about Microsoft publishing some games on multiple platforms. We now know what all of them are, all 4 of them are, being Grounded and Pentiment for Nintendo Switch specifically, along with Hi-Fi Rush and Sea of Thieves going to PlayStation 4. Plus, I think they're getting Pentiment as well, I believe. And maybe are they getting Grounded as well? Do you know? Are they getting all 4 games?
Yes.
Okay, yeah. So they're getting everything. So Switch is only getting half of this. Yeah. But yeah, like I see this news, and I'm like, this is such. Like, this is, first off, it's cool. Like, this is, fundamentally a good thing. We get more games. Everyone gets access to more games. But at the, I look at those 4 games, like, this isn't the big deal that it was turning into based on the rumors, and I think that's why Xbox felt the need to have that podcast to kind of lay it out. Because it's like, okay, we've already had, Xbox branded games on other platforms. This is just an extension of what we'd already seen. And it's kind of wild how out of control this rumors quickly got.
It's also interesting if you look at the Switch listings, they still haven't changed the name to Xbox Game Studios. It's still Microsoft Studios.
Oh, really?
Wow.
Yeah. And even on PlayStation, on Pentiment, you don't even get a splash screen of either Bethesda or Xbox Game Studios. It just goes straight into the game.
Oh, wow.
That could be part of the agreement. You can't advertise your platform.
It is kind of funny that if you click on the Switch in the Switch app, or sorry, in the NSO apps, and you click on one of the old Retro Rare games, and it brands it as being published from like from Microsoft Game Studios, I think, even though they weren't around by decades at the time of those games being made. I don't know. I found that funny.
But yeah, it's interesting because obviously the leakage of Hi-Fi Rush having a shirt on with being Switch related.
Yeah.
It's not coming out on Switch is very interesting, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, it was data mined in that there were icons that seemed to suggest a Switch and PlayStation 5 version. Obviously, the PS5 version ended up being true. The Switch one's odd. It makes me wonder, maybe it was canceled? Maybe it could come down the line. Do you think they would have announced it here if it were coming? So, I
mean, if it's coming at a later time, they may not want to delay the PS5 version for both.
Yeah, that could be.
Yeah. Also, like, it's very rhythm focused. I think it might also just be an issue of, should this game really run at 30 frames per second?
Yeah, that's a good point.
They matching the beat, or maybe PlayStation gets some little tiny second exclusive window before Switch gets it.
Yeah, could be.
Switch 2 exclusive.
I mean, it could. It could come to Switch 2. Who knows?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's absolutely possible, So, yeah, we'll see. All right, is there anything else from the Direct we haven't touched on that is worth bringing up?
So, Fantasy Life I finally has a date.
Sorry, which game?
That's right.
Fantasy Life I.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. So, despite it being a focus on the Direct of the first half of the year, it's coming out October 10th.
Yeah, it's a little weird.
Focused on
there's always something in the Direct that contradicts what they say it's about, right?
Yeah. So here's my problem with this, and Trish knows where this is going. I've read about this multiple times.
Oh.
Level 5 cannot get a release schedule in order to save their freaking life. For example, in Inazuma 11 game, it was announced before the Switch came out, is only getting an open beta this year.
Oh wow!
And it's still in development hell and doesn't have like a final date in order. And they said last year that Fantasy Life I and what's the police game called?
Name escapes me offhand. I'm not.
Those two games would come out last year. They didn't say anything at Tokyo Game Show. They only announced in October that they would come out this year.
Allegedly.
Yeah. And now they just announced that literally a year after that announcement, it's coming out in October, Fantasy Life I-wise. It is a very interesting scenario. But
oh boy.
Deca Police, thank you, somebody in the chat. But yeah, ultimately it's kind of that, right? Like I hope level 5 has like its development resources now in order, and the fact that now it's basically coming out gives me some sort of hope. But like ultimately, like to me, this has been a sequel of a game that I really enjoyed on 3DS, like really enjoyed multiplayer wise, and I just hope it is good. Because it has the online multiplayer in order, it has the multiple jobs, it has like this more open structure, and as terms of the game, I just hope it turns out well. And the trailer looked good, like the gameplay mechanics individually looked nice. It's just that it took a while for it to get together, and I just hope that 2 days after my birthday, surprisingly enough, I will play a very good video game.
Here's hoping.
Yeah.
Fingers crossed. I'll say quickly, like Penny's Big Breakaway, obviously good. Pepper Grinder demo. I played the Steam demo at Next Fest. This is probably the same. That is extremely fun. Like dolphin. You're like a dolphin drilling is what they kind of describe it as. Pretty good. And Contra, Operation Galuga. That was a little rough on Switch when I tried that demo. It's a little bit better playing on PC. But for someone who played original Contra like myself, handles extremely well. We're getting those upgrades, and it's surprising they've managed to make the laser feel better than the spreader. That's all I have to say.
I think
great
two more
things. Great bosses, like amazing.
Yeah. Two more things that I want to bring up is one, Snuff King Melody of Moomin Valley.
Nobody in North America knows Moomin. No.
Yeah, Moomin is something I grew up on as a kid, so it's very cool to see like a modern game on that. I saw a lot of merchandise for it in Japan, and unsurprisingly, we got a very small segment. They got a full segment on this game in the Japanese version of the Direct.
Yeah, that's fair. It was pretty different there.
Yeah. And it's about going to be March 7th when it comes out, and I look very much looking forward. The style of that game looks really sharp.
That's pretty soon too. That's like 2 weeks.
Yeah. And the other thing in the Japanese Direct, and we already mentioned Mother 3, there was also a guitar learning game.
Yeah, I saw that.
Yeah, it had a Hori-made guitar controller, which you actually can pull strings off. It looks really weird and different. And apparently you can just basically learn how to play guitar with that controller, and it's going to be very strange.
Wasn't there something like that? You know,
Ubisoft.
I feel like was it Ubisoft?
I think they had like a guitar learning game.
Yeah,
I do remember.
What's called Rocksmith?
Rocksmith, that was it.
Yeah.
So this basically a spiritual successor to that, or
no? It's just going to be a Japanese version of it.
Oh,
with a Hori-made controller.
Wow,
interesting.
I did see someone in the chat also mention the Star Wars Battlefront remasters, which those are online games, right?
Yes.
Yeah, that's pretty exciting.
Very much so.
Neat.
Yeah, I'm looking at it. Anytime I see a Battle of Hoth, you got me interested. You know, like I want to play. I want to check that out. So I may play that one. That one actually sounds pretty neat. All right. Let's move on from the Direct. We have, of course, another freaking Switch 2 rumor. This one, so we already had the news, the seemingly news of the Switch 2 being delayed to 2025. which then threw off the timetable people were expecting of the reveal. And this new rumor coming to us by way of, I believe, the same British, or not British, I'm sorry, Brazilian, thank you, Brazilian journalist, is that the reveal for the console now happened in June of this year. So kind of around the time the E3 would have been if it hadn't, completely died. And that there would be there would also be another Nintendo Direct ahead of that in April. I'm less concerned about that. I'm more interested in the Switch 2 reveal. Do we think that timeline makes sense? Do we think we're going to see it in June, which is at a minimum 6 months before its release in 2025? So
it would make sense, honestly, because there's plenty of developers who aren't currently in the know about a potential Switch 2, and you saw this kind of in the lead up after the first trailer got revealed of the Switch, is that then more games got announced, because then they could, people who weren't in the know could start porting their games to Switch.
Right.
So I think you want to have some sort of leeway into that period, so developers who are currently not under heavy NDA can also apply to become a developer on that next system.
I think Tom clearly has something to say. He got all ready.
No, that's the hunt for Switch 2 rumors. So I'm ready. It's like June still exists. The idea of E3's spirit still lingers.
What's that?
You'll have GDC maybe to get more developers on board, and in June you'll get a ton of journalists still there for Summer Games Fest in LA. I think even IGN has a thing. It's just a time that's really good to release news and kind of build up for later. But does it matter too much if it is 2025 now? Is that almost too soon to be announcing the games compared to if it was Christmas season?
Yeah, where I'm at with this is I think a June. So presuming something happened, there were so many rumors about it coming out end of this year, in the fall of this year. I do believe that was the intent, and something happened to change that timeline. The amount of breaking news that day of everyone scrambling to get that new info tells me something must have happened internally to change that. Maybe production was behind schedule or something. I don't know. But I think this new schedule almost feels like it's trying to mirror the success of the original Switch, except probably, hopefully, with more games. The original Switch, we first properly heard about from Nintendo. It wasn't announced then, but we heard about it from an investors or financial meeting in May 2016, where they mentioned, the NX. Currently,
it was even earlier. It was in 2015.
Yeah, so
with the DNA meeting where they announced the mobile strategy.
That's right. So it was even earlier. But then E3 that year, they mentioned Breath of the Wild will also be on what's currently known as the NX, and then it was October where they finally showed it off with a trailer. January we had the whole big presentation, and then released in March. So I feel like if it's looking to be releasing in Q1 2025, they might actually be looking to do a similar kind of schedule, but treat June as when the big reveal happens. And then in the lead up for the rest of the year, basically slowly go into a bunch of games and expectations for the console itself, instead of condensing all of that to a 3-month span.
I think even if let's say it launches in March next year, if you launch it in June, that makes it even longer leeway for a developer. That's 9 months where you can prep a game.
Yep.
That would be incredible for a launch window of a potential follow-up of the Switch.
Yeah, for ports, ports and other. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, that is a good point. I was wondering if Nintendo would try to keep that window as tight as possible. Possibly to 6 months, in which case I think June still might be a little early, but they are looking at a broader window, 9 months, around maybe 9 months, perhaps longer. You are right that it would give more developers an opportunity to get dev kits, start preparing their games for the system, and especially too. I think we don't even know how different the system is going to be, right?
Sure.
Nintendo's usually very secretive because they want, they don't want their ideas to be ripped off. They want to give competitors a heads up. But this is just this is really just going to be kind of hardware, a boost in hardware power. There may not be much to hide here, and it might just be better to get that news out there sooner than later.
That's true.
And there are, there will always be an impact to some degree on Nintendo's console sales in for whatever year the new console's not releasing into this holiday. But at this point, the Switch's sales are still good, but they are dropping, and I suspect Nintendo's not too worried about that.
Right.
And it's more important to just manage the transition into the next console. But that's where Nintendo's always dropped the ball, and I have seen some concern from people.
Yeah.
From our audience and elsewhere, is Nintendo already fumbling the ball once again? Have they waited too long? And right now, I don't think they're quite at that point, but I don't know. It also does feel like they could be. I think a lot depends on the timing, how they manage it, and and so far I think they're set up to do well, but that could change quickly. And if if Switch momentum falls off a cliff, they may find themselves in trouble for the Switch 2. But right now, it doesn't seem like it's going to. According to Nintendo, there are more players than ever playing on the Switch. And hopefully they're handling everything well, and we'll have, I think, to clarify too, I think one of the rumors was, or part of this rumor was for the delay was so they could have like a proper launch lineup for the system, which also makes sense. So
it's not unusual for Nintendo to do like a 9-month follow-up between systems. They did it with 3DS. It was proper revealed at June 2010, and it came out in March afterwards. So it's not completely new for them. The only one that was the longest, and they shouldn't have done, was with Project Cafe / the Wii U. Because the first information of Project Cafe came out in January 2010. And 2011.
Those early Project Cafe rumors were nuts too. Like, it made it sound like the super social system was going to have like cool streaming capabilities, none of which really happened, unless you count the streaming to the gamepad. But
I think also like what will be interesting is what from a first party perspective is Nintendo going to come with, because you need like a first good impression, and the first impression with the Switch was The Legend of Zelda: Breath of the Wild. And I think with 3DS and Wii U, there were some interesting stuff there, but it was not like the big thing that people bought the system for. And I think maybe that's also something that they're looking at, that something needs to be that push, and it needs to be ready.
I'm hoping, since it's been so long since we've heard of one, since 3D Zelda launched the Switch, I'm hoping 3D Mario launches the Switch too. We had Odyssey in that first year of the Switch, but I want to see it launch with it this time. Yeah, because if you launch with like 3D Mario and a strong third party lineup, and then maybe like a multiplayer title, that's a good launch. And something else too, I think is worth noting, as Don, you even mentioned that Nintendo kind of has a track record of releasing things in March. I think that's also just better for them, because then they're not immediately rushing into the holiday market. They get to build up to the holiday market. Whereas if you launch basically into the holiday market, you run the risk of supply issues. I think, at least.
You get like a first boost with the launch and a second boost in the Christmas season. But
exactly.
I'm going to say, Andre, you had a good point with like, if they do want to announce something, it kind of gets ahead of leaks, because obviously they're talking to developers, stuff will get out. You could simply not show whatever gimmick, if there is one, to developers, and they're just developing for the hardware. But mostly, I think Nintendo, with its movies, its theme parks, and being a good spot, like with just having their brand out there, is even more willing than ever to sit on a new console until its games, like a new Mario, are ready. So.
Yeah, I agree.
I mean, they are in a good point or a good place right now. It's just, some people are worried: are they going to do what happened with the 64, the Wii? In that they just ride it for way too long to the point that people just don't care anymore. But I think the situation is different so far. But that does depend on this timetable working out as is. Like, if it ends up being like a holiday 2025 title, that's going to be a lot harder to ride out the Switch until. I think
it would have to be early 2025, like the rumors say, for it to really work out right now.
Right. I do think I think a 3D Mario is almost a given, Tris, at this point. Nintendo's only ever launched with 3D Marios, or not 3D, with Mario or Zelda, plus Luigi's Mansion, which is basically a Mario game. And obviously we're not going to get Zelda. It's been, by the time of the potential release next year, it will have been 4 years since Bowser's Fury. Which I only think Bowser's Fury, that probably wasn't even the full team's effort,
So even longer since Odyssey.
Much longer since Odyssey, exactly. So I think we're in a good place for a 3D Mario, and that could really be exciting, especially if Bowser's Fury kind of teased the potential direction for 3D Mario. That could be just a a really impressive game. So
for sure.
Could you imagine a world where it's like Mario, you start out and there's like the castle, but then like behind it, there's like Battlefield's mountain or like some sort of huge mountain you can keep going to in an open world like that?
Oh my
I would love
gosh.
that. Like kind of like to bring in the Mushroom Kingdom from Mario Odyssey, but it's like just a super tiny part of this massive world, you know?
Yeah.
I want
So
that.
there is one other part to this whole rumor that's also worth talking about, which was kind of funny. Just before the partner direct aired, we get the rumor of another Nintendo Direct happening in April. So the rumor for this is specifically that, and this is from the same source that talked about the Switch 2 getting its reveal in June. They're saying that there'll be a general direct in April. And I think that makes a lot of sense, because if you imagine this partner direct was originally framed as, well, we'll have the new console this year, so we're not going to go hard on first parties. Let the third parties take the spotlight for what's coming this year. That kind of makes sense for that. But now with the shift, now you need to draw attention to what first party releases you have this year. How you rescheduled things to have releases this year, because other than Peach Showtime, we only know of Paper Mario Thousand Year Door and Luigi's Mansion 2, and probably
and Endless Ocean now,
and now Endless Ocean.
Yeah,
but that's still not a lot.
No,
there's probably still more in there somewhere, whether it's things that were always planned or things that they have now shifted in because of delays and rescheduling things. So a direct in April, after the fiscal year ends, after Peach Showtime has come out, actually that makes a lot of sense, because nothing at that point is concrete other than Endless Ocean. Nothing has a date. Nothing is locked in. So I think that's the perfect time to give people all that info of what to expect for the next 6 months at that point.
No, that makes sense. Yeah.
It's pretty exciting too, because if they're having another Nintendo Direct in April, a proper Nintendo Direct this time, and they didn't hold any of these announcements from the partner showcase for it, it suggests there's probably some pretty big things in there, or at least a big thing. Nintendo right now has no big holiday title at all. Although, it could be the one that they announced, almost a decade ago at this point, being Metroid Prime 4. And that will be, and especially if that game does end up being like a cross-gen compatible title with enhancements on Switch 2, that could be such a great lead-in into, kind of early marketing for that system as well. Kind of like how Breath of the Wild acted, or Zelda Wii U at the time, acted as essentially marketing for the subsequent console, even if that case might be a little different because it launched, at launch for it. But, but there's no guarantee Metroid Prime 4 will be there. It could be something else, but it does suggest that there's there's some big things we don't know about yet for this year.
Yep. I think the first hint of that is going to be what Pokemon has in their presents next week, because Pokemon's going to be releasing something around the holidays, even if it's just another DLC. They always do. So Pokemon will have something. But I imagine that's going to be the start of learning what else is happening this year, because Nintendo has to have other things this year. If they only have Endless Ocean, Paper Mario, Luigi's Mansion, and Metroid Prime 4, 2 of those things being remakes, that's not a good year.
No, it's a bust of a year. I will fully admit, my initial reaction to that direct where we got all those news, I'm like, oh, this is a great lineup. But once I got remove myself from the hype, I'm like, what is this? It's just a lot of games I've played before. I love Mario. It's too much. So yeah, I swear to God, if they just announce more Mario games in this direct that aren't a proper 3D sequel, I don't know what I'm gonna do. Unless it's Mario Baseball, I will allow an exception for Mario Baseball.
Yeah, if we finally get that Mario Baseball, that would be nice.
Andre, Nintendo will be like, we hear you. Here's a remaster of Mario is Missing.
Oh my God!
It's also interesting looking back at the direct of this week is that they A, dropped the mini name, and B, completely changed the branding of Nintendo Direct now again.
That's true.
Yeah, why do we think they did that? Do we think it's a one-time thing? Because mini directs have been 25 minutes before, haven't they?
Yeah, they have. The last partner showcase was about this.
The last two, so the one in June 22 and the last one of the series that was in 2020 were both about 25 minutes.
Well, could it be like an analytics and reach thing? Simply by having the mini in the name, less people tune in.
I think so.
People end up watching it.
I don't know, because it feels like a random point to suddenly change the way that you approach these things. Because you're still dropping it on YouTube, you're not making a big deal out of it, despite there being a lot of good information here.
Maybe
I just think ultimately is that they just shifted their strategy overall, and now they're just focusing on one brand and not making offshoots of that brand.
Yeah, maybe Nintendo took some of the same YouTube SEO advice we have, where like you want shorter titles on YouTube, and Mini just adds a few extra characters. You know,
It definitely does.
It's seriously though. I mean, I wonder if it actually means either the complete dissolution of the Mini as a brand, or if it means it's going to be even clearer what a Mini is, like where it is just a conventional Nintendo Direct but shorter. Whereas it, I will admit, like I found myself it's a little confusing. Like Nintendo Direct Mini Partner Showcase, that's a lot of words. There's a lot of things to keep in mind, and it felt kind of unnecessary. So maybe that's it too. So Nintendo Direct Minis could still exist, but it'll be independent of Partner Showcases, which are just implied to be shorter than usual. So
yep. Really, the main difference is Direct Minis are usually just dropped, like on YouTube, like this was. Whereas anything not branded Mini is live streamed. That usually is kind of the difference. Otherwise,
good point. I like Natsu saying they want Hotel Mario. We're gonna make a Hotel Mario. There you go, Tom. That can be our Mario game for the year. So there was that one. Actually, speaking of Hotel Mario, what's that new CDI Zelda inspired game?
RZ.
Yeah,
RZ.
It apparently opens or has like a Hotel Mario like level early into the game, which is great.
That's so good.
Yeah, it does. It does. Yeah, I played
genius.
through it. It's honestly a very funny game. I very much enjoyed that.
That's great. All right. Is there anything else about Switch 2 we want to about this rumor we want to address, or the Direct?
Just that I think I definitely think all of these changes this year is a sign that like they had big plans for this year. Things changed, and this year's in general is going to look different than the usual year. Like, we had our usual February Direct, but it took a very different look this time around. So an April Direct, while we've never really had that before, does not sound as far-fetched to me this year than it would have any other year.
Yeah, no, it makes a lot of sense. But after Princess Peach, there's not a whole lot happening, and we need to know what's going on. AB James brings up a good point of something that could happen. Super Mario Wonder DLC would be nice with more badge challenge levels that are longer.
That'd be fun.
Yeah, that seems like a pretty easy way of incorporating, a fun little challenge. So definitely a little more elegant than the first DLC Nintendo ever did, being those new Super Mario Bros. 2 expansion pack levels, which was so weird.
Actually, that was their second piece of DLC.
What was the first?
The first was a photo camera app called Sparkle Snapshots 3D.
What the heck? How do you know
Thank
this?
you, Nintendo.
And even then, they also did like that DLC on WiiWare games called Wi-Fi Connection Paid Download or something. It was a really weird name of a red symbol.
Right. Oh, interesting. Sylvie brings up Color Splash would be hype. Yes, it would be, but in the same year as Thousand Year Door, I don't think so.
Yeah,
probably not. Especially,
I love Color Splash more.
I
Than
did too. I think it's my favorite of the modern Paper Mario trilogy.
For sure.
Game.
I think the bite-sized level structure and the way that you fill in those blanks in those levels is actually very entertaining.
Really good. It's satisfying. Great game.
Yeah.
Probably not this year.
No,
but that does, there is room for more Wii U ports. There's I love how even still, after PlayStation's like, we don't have any more like big first party exclusives coming up in the next year, and then people start looking at like the list of exclusives, and Wii U still has more exclusives than PlayStation 5, despite all the Switch ports we've had from that console. So that, it's possible we could get some more announcements along those lines. Maybe we'll get that Xenoblade X, or maybe we'll get Star Fox Zero revamp. Probably not, I'm guessing, but there are things that could explore, or Kirby's Canvas Curse, things like that. Mm-hmm. So
yeah, there's definitely a lot of the Wii U library they could still bring over if they wanted to. They clearly wanted to do a bunch of them. Will this be the year for Wind Waker and Twilight Princess? I don't know. I can hope, but
those are, I think, the biggest possibilities, because Nintendo almost always has something Zelda related, and we've had nothing yet. We know of nothing yet, and Nintendo has basically confirmed there won't be any DLC for Tears of the Kingdom.
Yep.
Yeah.
So, I feel like Wind Waker is almost a guarantee. Almost a guarantee.
I hope.
I like how you only mentioned Wind Waker and another word about Twilight Princess.
There's only one game that can port.
Yeah, I agree. But still.
All right. Since we're talking about DLC, let's move on to I think what might be our final topic of the day, being the release of Side Order. It just happened.
There's Joey.
Oh, Joey made it. Hey, Joey. So Side Order released a couple days ago, or yeah, was it? I guess no, it was 2 days ago now. Technically, I guess.
For me, it was 1 day ago, but
There you go. I don't know what time it is anymore.
Time's
yeah.
And it seems like I've seen we've already had some coverage of it. We had the live stream, we had your review of it, Dawn. Sounded like you were a pretty big fan of it, and it seems like based on the reactions I've seen, some people either really love it or some people were like, it's kind of boring. And I don't know if anyone else has seen these reactions, but I wonder if that's just the nature of like roguelikes. Like myself,
yes,
I'm not a huge roguelike fan, so I'm like, yeah, I can see why people may not find it exciting, but if you do like the style of gameplay, it seems like there's probably a lot here that might interest you.
Yes, very much so. It's also like, for me, it's been a week where I just delved into a bunch of roguelikes, so it also felt like almost the correct week for it to have happened. But at the same time, I mean, the thing is with Side Order, it's roguelike in the sense that everyone is unique, but you know what you're getting by using a certain weapon and trying to hit that floor 30. There's a lot of differentials in like every run that you do with multiple difficulties and levels, and like there's like special tags where with bonus you get like special conditions that really are helpful, or with danger where that could just be a complete lights out or anything else. So there's a lot of differential stuff that I really appreciate about this DLC, and that makes it really fun to like go through a few runs and see how you get on with it.
So you've been through the whole thing. Like, it's what you see, what you get, basically. Like, do most levels look kind of like what we're looking at right now, or does it change it up substantially at all?
These are runs from the first ever run that you do. Like, you don't see these levels again.
Oh, okay, interesting.
Like, you can replay them by an option. If you go before the elevator, you can say that you want to do your initial run again. But these levels you see right now, you never see again.
So they're basically just the tutorial levels.
These are the tutorial levels, yes.
I see.
In initial runs, like I said, they are separated by 4 different difficulties: easy, normal, hard, and rigorous. And there's no rhyme or reason how they are selected. Sometimes you get like 2 hard levels and a rigorous. Sometimes you get an easy, normal, or a rigorous. It just randomly happens, both with also those special tags. So you don't really know what you're getting in a specific run. And that's sort of the uncertainty of it. Like my initial winning run, where I actually completed around 30, I had a rigorous level very early on, where I only had hard and 2 rigorous options.
Ooh.
And I went for rigorous, and it took me about 6 minutes to beat. And I thought, I'm kind of weak, I only have 1 life left. I don't think this is going to be the run. Then later on, I purchased all my lives back, went all the way, and I was like, this was the run, wasn't it?
Wow. Yeah. I mean, it almost, there was a comment here I highlighted. What is it? Oops. Oh, no, here it is. From Team Sora saying, don't really play roguelikes, but I'm getting that just one more run mentality. Is that how it felt? Like, did you always feel like you had to do one more run, Don?
Yeah. I feel like
Pringles.
You spend a few times like nailing a weapon, finding the chips that you really want to use in every run, and then ultimately going all the way. Because there are like chips that are specific to a specific weapon that you can only find when you use a specific weapon. There are only chips that are specific for the drone, that is Pearl, basically. So you need to adjust yourself to the way that you want to go through that specific run with that weapon. And there's so much that they'll think about in the little details, which I think as a roguelike makes it really strong.
Well, and kind of to that point, a message here from Sylvie says, is it Gungeon? Is that how you pronounce that?
Yeah.
As a Gungeon buff, this DLC doesn't look that crazy, to be honest. So is it kind of like, have you played, like, is it kind of a little lower key, like a little slower maybe than other roguelikes that you played, Don? Or does it get more intense later on?
Oh, it definitely get intense. Like that rigorous level that I mentioned. The only enemies that you fight basically for the majority are sniper towers, and you do this while trying to paint 2 zones and going back and forth to survive. Like, that is not an easy way, regardless of the weapon that you pick. Like, the weapon is another difficulty curve, and certain weapons can make you fare better than others. But at the same time, like if you get like a rigorous level very early on, you really have to fight for it.
Okay.
And I've heard it does a really good job giving like replay value for like to replay the whole thing with every weapon basically too.
There's honestly like so many little fun things about it that even now that I finished with a certain weapon, I kind of want to play legs around some of the weapons again just to see how I get stuff differently. But it's honestly with all the unlockables that you get, especially post game, you get a bunch of unlockables by just spending pearls on gear or certain stickers or decorations
you
for your
spend
locker.
pearls? Is this like squidling trafficking?
No, you spend literal like pearls, like the
not the character pearl.
Pearl, but it's sort of weird. But there's a bunch of unlockables next to the lockers, and then a bunch of stuff post game that really gets you going for a while. And even now, I barely felt like I scratched the full surface of things.
Really? Wow. So is it better? Is it better or worse than Octo Expansion?
It's very different, right? Like Octo Expansion.
Not yes or no, Don.
No, yes it's a legit thing. It's very different because that was an actual campaign. Like it was story up front. This is one run with actual story. The rest is actually going for the roguelike elements of that game.
So if you had to play, if you had to choose
gameplay,
one to play, Don, which would you choose to play?
Obviously, I do find the mission structure of like the main campaign of 3 and Octo Expansion like good and varied, and it really is interesting way up until the very end. But what I found interesting about like this particular thing is that you value your choices a little bit more because like every level in those campaigns is structured, and deservedly so, to get you to a certain point throughout the game. Where here, it's not really sure what you're getting, and you have to kind of deal with the consequences of your own actions.
So it sounds like you're saying if you had to choose one, it'd be the Octo Expansion.
It's once again, it's difficult because I really like both.
I know it's difficult. Just pick one.
No, it is really difficult for me. Honestly, it is. No, I don't say this like decisively. I think the ending of Octo Expansion is one of the best things in the entirety of Splatoon universe. Don't get me wrong. But
I agree with that.
But it's very different because they literally said with the campaign of Splatoon 3, this is the end. We're not going to do another campaign that ties into this. So they had to do something radically different, and that's what it is.
I'm actually, and I think that's a good thing that they're wrapping up Splatoon 3 as well. Someone suggested earlier, could they launch Switch 2 with Splatoon 4? I don't think they will, but who knows?
Way too soon. Please don't rush another Splatoon game. Oh my god!
I know.
Not again.
It somehow feels like every Splatoon game's kind of rushed out there. But I don't know.
Yeah.
Actually, I take it back. What I just said, I don't know. I actually don't know if I agree with what I just said, actually. Because I can't believe that even now, are we almost 2 years out from Splatoon 3's release at this point? And there's still not a single new mode in the main multiplayer portion of the game, right?
Yeah.
It's all the same from Splatoon 2. How is that possible? This is a series that used to be, that said it was all about being fresh, and it's stale. Besides this, but like when it comes to the core game, it's pretty stale. I think.
Can you do the card game online?
Only in private lobbies.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and I mean that's a whole. I don't even consider that. That's like a whole separate mode. Like that's fun. That's a neat addition, but people don't buy Splatoon for the card game. They play it for the core ink-based action, and that hasn't dramatically changed across 3 games now.
Yep.
Splatoon 2 added some additional modes.
2 was like fresh in a lot of ways because it added like the dualies, for example, which you could roll and stuff. That was really fun. But I think with 3, they didn't really add like many new things. Most of the new maps follow, in my opinion, also the same structure. Like it goes down and then back up. And it feels like every new map they've added since the launch of that game, which is every new season, which I also think takes way too long for a new map to be introduced, feels kind of similar in setup. And what I think ultimately kills like Splatoon 3 for me in the long run is that I have to dedicate myself throughout seasons with like these catalogs, like these battle pass like structures.
Yeah.
And honestly, I felt like if they did the same strategy as 2, where they release something like every 2 weeks, like I would continuously and voluntarily continue to spend time in it. But the thing is that it's because it drops it all in a big chunk at the beginning of a season. Like sometimes I just forget that some stuff is there, and half of the time I forget that new maps are there.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And even if you didn't, as you said, a lot of them kind of run together. I have not fully kept up with all the new maps in Splatoon 3, so they may have diversified it since I reviewed it, when they came out. But I noticed even then, like every map feels basically the same. And Sylvie here mentions that they miss Splatoon 1's maps, and I do too. I loved every map in Splatoon 1 felt completely distinct to me, and even though it didn't have as many maps as the sequels, I felt like I found them more replayable than the new ones. And I think part of it is that Nintendo has geared Splatoon itself too much toward like the competitive side of things. And there's another issue I have with Splatoon myself personally, is that it's just way too sweaty. It's like nonstop action, nonstop blowing up constantly. And I feel like it's too much for me. It's like too intense. If you're like either you're always engaged in like a battle with someone within seconds. And I want almost like a more chill mode in Splatoon, at least, like something a little bit more relaxed. Like I still like the competitive side of things, but like I need more time. I need more time to process.
Yeah, I think what carries for me the existence of Splatoon 3 was the campaign, and now this. Like I still enjoy multiplayer. Like I do spend time on it, but I do feel kind of worse for wear because I'm basically doing all the work for a season at the beginning and the end of it, and nowhere in the middle.
Yeah, I see what you mean.
Yeah,
Andre, you need a reverse power washer game. Instead of trying to clean up everything, you're just trying to paint everything.
Exactly.
That's what you need for a relaxing experience.
Want to be the Shadow Mario for Mario Sunshine. I want to go around and just mess things up. All right. Well, is there anything else from this past week that we want to discuss before we wrap it up here? Is there anything we missed, chat? Let us know. But Tom, Tris, Don, anything else you want to bring up?
There were too many good video games to
slow
down.
Too many.
I've been busy. Yeah, there's a lot of stuff.
Shout out to Bellatro because it kind of came into between the Direct and Side Order, but that's a really good freaking roguelike. It's like a card game roguelike with poker mechanics as its base, and it's really good.
Nice. We had a chat from Aiden saying, before we close, I will say that I'm so happy Epic Mickey is getting a remaster. It looks so beautiful. I'll be picking up day one and finally experiencing it for the first time. Yeah, I mean, basically me too, because I don't remember much from playing it when it came out, 15 years ago. So, but I only dabble with it a little bit. So yeah, I'm kind of looking forward to revisiting it as well. But I always liked the idea of Epic Mickey, and if you can iron out some of the issues with the remaster, that'd be great. So.
But hey, Pokemon Day next week.
Yeah, I'm excited for it.
Yeah. Hey, what's your big prediction, Tris? What are the one big thing you're hoping for?
Trying to think back to all the different things Don and I talked about now.
Yeah.
Because you came up with a lot. Honestly, I want to see something for Pokemon Gen 5. So, something for Black and White or Black 2, White 2, because that's still like one of my favorite generations. I want to see something.
That would be so nice. Yeah. I would hope so.
Well, let's hope it doesn't disappoint, Tris. Pokemon Presents have that kind of hit or miss element to it, right?
That's true. I'll cross the fingers.
Are we going to get 10 minutes of concept art this time? And
we'll get 10 minutes of mobile games at the start. That's how they always open them. So be ready for that, and then we'll be good.
Good old reliable mobile games. Did you ever play that Magic? Is that Magikarp jumping one still out there? Is that still?
I forgot about that game. I've never actually played it.
Magikarp Jump is still available. I don't think it's alive anymore, though.
Wow, sad. All right. Well, I think we're gonna wrap it up there, everyone. That's the big news for the week here on Pipeline. Thanks for watching. We'll of course be back next Friday, 10 a.m. Pacific time, same time, with even more news from the next week. We'll see what's gonna happen. I guess we do have. Is it Presents next week, Tris?
Yeah, the Pokemon Presents is next Tuesday. Yeah. So we'll have that. Right.
Let's hope for big news. So we'll be streaming that as well, of course. Speaking of streaming, Tom, is it actually in the description? Did you add it?
Yeah, I added it in the description.
Awesome. Perfect. So if we are currently using StreamYard to do this, really big fans of it. If you're looking for a similar service yourself to stream on your own channel, whether on Twitch or YouTube or whatever, or even just for recording and posting later, there's a link in the description below. If you click it, it'll take you right to StreamYard. You can get set up, and it's an affiliate link, so it'll help us out as well. So if you're curious, definitely click that link. It's a great service so far. It's been really great for us for Pipeline. But there you go, everyone. Thanks for watching, and we'll catch you next Friday for even more. And what are you highlighting there, Don? Oh, I thought you were like pointing to your shirt or something. I'm like, is there something I'm missing?
Yeah, thumbs up.
Nice. All right. With that note, we're out. Bye, everyone.
Bye.